Yes, viewers, Finance Minister Sri Mulyani said that the tax revenue until April 2021 only hit 30% of the whole target, which is only 374 trillion rupiah. Finance Minister Sri Mulyani Indrawati said that the state revenue from the tax side in April 2021 reached only 374.9 trillion rupiah. The number is only 30.94% of the 2021 tax target of 1,229 trillion rupiah. Even though it is still contracting 0.46%, the contractions is still better in 2021 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Finance Minister Sri Mulyani said that compared to last year, this growth is already a bit better because the last year in April 2020, the growth in the tax revenue went -3%.
Dalam hal ini, tadi saya sebutkan tax ratio kita sudah di bawah 9%. Namun patternnya harus kita ubah menuju ke atas. Penerimaan pajak kita sampai bulan April 374,9 triliun. Ini adalah 30,94% dari target yang tadi disampaikan oleh Pak Suryo, lebih dari 1.200 triliun. Pertumbuhannya masih negatif 0,46. Namun dibanding tahun lalu, pertumbuhan ini
The improvement in the tax revenue was due to a recovery in each tax segment. Some segments that are starting to recover include corporate tax income and value-added tax. Corporate income tax was observed to grow 31.1%, while the domestic VAT grew by 6.4% on the gross basis, indicating an increase in underlying transactions. Jakarta, Rahaja Patmo for IDX Channel. The government, through the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy, is preparing a study on the implementations from working from Bali policy. And the current scenario will be as much as 25% of civil servants will work from Bali. As one of the efforts to restore the economy for the tourism area, the coordinating Minister of Maritime Affairs and Investment, Luhut Binsar Panjaitan, launched the Work from Bali program. As is well known, Bali is one of the areas that has been badly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. With the existence of the central civil servants who go on the official trips in Bali, it will improve the economy. In the Work from Bali program, at least 8 ministries workers will be ordered to do office work from Bali. The civil servants from Jakarta will be assigned to 16 hotels in Nusa Dua Resort area managed by Indonesia Tourism Development Corporation.
Saat ini kajian kami sekitar 25%. Ada bekerja work from Bali, 25% yang bekerja dari Jakarta. Terus tantangannya adalah jenis pekerjaan apa saja yang work from Bali. Nah, kami mengusulkan bahwa pekerjaan-pekerjaan yang rutin yang sifatnya kesekretariatan dan juga rapat-rapat itu sebaiknya memang dikontrol atau dikerjakan dari Bali. Rapat kalau dilaksanakan secara hybrid, offline-nya di Bali.
Conditions of tourism in Bali, which is currently dying. Many hotels operating in Bali with minimum occupancy less than 10%, with the hotel occupancy only 10% filled. Hotels in Bali have a difficulty paying employees' salaries, even hotel maintenance. Jakarta, Adi Firmansyah, IDX Channel. To another coverage, government believes Indonesia's trade balance performance will be getting better in line with improving commodity prices. And the coordinating Minister of Economy hopes that these situations will accelerate the economic recovery.
The trade balance surplus in the last 12 months is a sign of the huge potential for global exports, even though the global economy is still under pandemic pressure. Coordinating Minister for the Economy Erlangga Hartarto explained that the potential for increased exports will continue as commodity prices improve. The increase in commodity prices is expected to accelerate the recovery of the national economy, which is still deteriorating due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Erlangga said that commodity price movements have become the government's concern, starting from coal, rubber, gold, copper, nickel to crude palm oil. The government believes that Indonesia's export value has the potential to increase due to the long-running downstream of mineral commodities.
Komoditas juga harga lagi bagus, kemudian harga CPO juga menembus di atas 1.000, ini juga yang tertinggi. Kemudian demikian pula dengan harga karet naik 50%. Kemudian kita juga lihat copper dan gold juga naik. Dan tentu ini seiring dengan naiknya demand. Dan kita melihat bahwa dengan kenaikan berbagai komoditas ini, Indonesia tentunya diharapkan bisa memanfaatkan komoditi boom ini dengan hilirisasi agar lebih sustainable.
Erlangga estimates that the downstream policy will allow Indonesia in the next 4 to 5 years to export mineral processed products such as nozzle, reaching $10 billion. The government also ensures that the downstream policy will continue so that the commodities produced have a higher export selling power. From Jakarta, Raharjo Patmo for IDX Channel.
President Joko Widodo called for justice for the COVID-19 vaccines for all countries because until now, President Jokowi stated that the global gap in vaccine access is still widening. President Joko Widodo called for justice for the COVID-19 vaccine for all countries because until now, President Jokowi stated that the global gap in vaccine access is still widening.
Saya harus kembali mengingatkan kita semua bahwa kita hanya akan betul-betul pulih dan aman dari COVID-19 jika semua negara juga telah pulih. No one is safe until everyone is. Saat ini tantangan akses vaksin yang adil dan merata bagi semua masih sangat besar seperti masalah supply, pendanaan dan keengganan terhadap vaksin.
Jokowi also revealed that currently there are still several countries that have started vaccinating low-risk groups, namely children and young people. However, only 0.3% of the vaccine supply is for low-income countries. So he also invited the G20 countries to take steps so that the vaccine problem can be resolved. One of them is a short-term strategy by encouraging even stronger dose sharing through the COVAX facility scheme. Not only that, to build health resilience, Jokowi also said that collective production capacity is needed with the technology and investments experts. IDX Channel team reported. Market headlines will be right back after this quick break. Stay tuned. Hello, I'm Clara Antawijaya. I'm associate producer and news presenter on Market Headlines. As Market Headlines starts at 4:30 p.m., which is in line with the closing market, therefore we summarize the market conditions only for you. And my job in here as a journalist, I give concise and accurate news for the audience. And also, being a journalist is not only a job for me, but it is also a passion.
Presiden Joko Widodo memiliki optimisme yang tinggi terkait dengan proses vaksinasi nasional yang sedang dilakukan saat ini. Bagaimana tanggapan dari pengusaha dengan angka ini?
Tentu membuat kita harus lebih berhati-hati.
Langkah apa yang tepat dilakukan untuk bisa meningkatkan pemahaman masyarakat?
Komunikasi publik adalah kunci. Jadi kita harus bisa menunjukkan kepada masyarakat bahwa vaksinasi itu penting.
Ya halo pemirsa, nama saya Mangi Teracong. Saat ini saya menjabat sebagai presenter dan juga associate producer. Saat ini saya membawakan program IDX Conversation Closing, di mana di program tersebut saya menganalisa isu-isu ekonomi yang menarik, baik dari luar negeri maupun juga dari dalam negeri. Tentunya, hingga saat ini saya masih terus belajar dan saya sangat menikmati profesi tersebut.
Pemirsa, Menteri Kelautan dan Perikanan Wahyu Sakti Tenggono secara tegas melarang aktivitas ekspor benih lobster.
Karena benur itu adalah kekayaan daripada bangsa ini, kekayaan dari alam ini. Dia hanya boleh dibudidaya.
Presiden Joko Widodo resmi mencabut aturan terkait investasi industri minuman keras.
Bahlil Lahadalia menyebutkan
adalah kita memberikan perizinan berusaha dan inisiatif bagi UMKM.
Welcome back to Market Headlines. After done it before in 2016 and 2017, Indonesia will propose another tax amnesty plan in upcoming talks with the lawmakers about tax law revisions, as President has sent a formal request to the House for starting the bill deliberations immediately.
A tax amnesty program in 2016 to 2017 resulted around 1 million taxpayers declaring more than 4,800 trillion rupiah worth of assets, though officials were disappointed with the amount of assets that were eventually repatriated to 147 trillion rupiah. Again, Indonesia will propose another tax amnesty plan. President Joko Widodo has notified the House of Representatives about his intent to introduce another tax amnesty program, the second in 5 years, as a part of government attempt to boost tax revenues amid the COVID-19 pandemic. However, the proposal is pretty controversial. For example, business actors worry the plan outlined by the coordinating Minister for the Economy, Airlangga Hartarto, actually it has a potential and psychological effect on the entrepreneurs, because recently the government's plan to increase VAT by up to 15% has been a nightmare already for the business actors. From all sources, IDX Channel.
Recently, public is quite surprised with President's intentions on another tax amnesty program. If so, this is the second in 5 years as part of the government attempt to boost tax revenues amid the COVID-19 pandemic. As we know that the first tax amnesty was in 2016 and 2017, but many officials wasn't that satisfied with the result. And before we go through the whole case, I would like to tell you what it's all about. Tax amnesty is a free pass for the taxpayers to disclose incomplete or unreported income in their previous tax periods without having to face the prosecutions by the tax court or pay any penalty. While it is pretty clear about the definitions itself, let's see the proposed in the next graphic. Through the next graphic, we can assess that the proposed is to increase the short-term tax revenue and improve compliance to tax in the future, and then to encourage taxpayers to report voluntary of their wealth that own abroad, and tax amnesties provide new tax system. And why does Indonesia need the tax amnesty? Indonesia is targeting 30% increase in tax revenue this year to help finance massive infrastructure constructions all across the country, an ambitious target amid sluggish economic growth and low taxpayer compliance. And not only Indonesia, but almost all public officials do amnesty program to make taxpayers to pay taxes and to improve their compliance to tax in the future. Even United States of America has done tax amnesty 18 times in 41 states. The goal is very clear that the government wants this tax amnesty to be the real benefit to our common interest, to the benefit interest of the nations, to the benefit interest of the people. So while the coordinating Minister of Economic Affairs, Airlangga Hartarto, said that the stipulations about tax amnesty would be among items including the bill for the 2009 law about general provisions and tax procedures revisions. Items that would be revised include value-added tax, personal income tax, reductions of corporate income tax rates, value-added tax on luxury items, and there is excise and also carbon tax. And for that, the minister said that President Jokowi has sent formal request to the House for starting the bill deliberation immediately. If the House approves the bill, then this will become the Tax Amnesty Program Volume 2. So let's throw back government previously implemented the first batch of tax amnesty in 2016 to 2017. So let's see the result in the next graphic. Here it is. We can see the total tax revenue during the first amnesty program of 2016 up to 2017. The tax revenue without amnesty reaching 2,122 trillion rupiah, and the tax revenue with the amnesty became 2,257 trillion rupiah. And meanwhile, the tax revenue target itself is 2,639 trillion rupiah. Jokowi held his first tax amnesty program in 2016 and 2017, allowing tax evaders to come clean and declare their back taxes and hidden assets to the authorities, with only having to pay much smaller amount compared to what they had to pay if the authorities caught them red-handed. And the program managed to collect information about 4,813 trillion rupiah of previously hidden assets and encourage repatriations of 46 trillion rupiah overseas assets. And also the tax office raised a total of 135 trillion rupiah back taxes in 2016 and 2017. But that was not enough to cover the 517 trillion rupiah tax shortfalls over the 2-year period. But still, the realizations of the tax after the first batch tax amnesty was not very satisfying, if I may say. So let's take a look at the full data in the next graphic. Here it is. Through the next graphic, we can see the tax realizations of Indonesia. Let's assess it from 2018, whereas the tax realizations only reached 1,315 trillion rupiah, but however, the target itself is 1,424 trillion rupiah. And we can see the shortfall in here. It was 108 trillion rupiah shortfalls in 2018. Meanwhile, in 2019, we can see that the realizations is only 1,332 trillion rupiah. Meanwhile, the target is 1,577 trillion rupiah. And then the shortfall made it bigger to be 245 trillion rupiah. And meanwhile, last year, we can see that the realizations was only 1,070 trillion rupiah. However, the target is 1,198 trillion rupiah within a shortfall of 128 trillion rupiah. And after there is a tax amnesty, still the shortfall is very huge. And the latest data, Indonesia has collected around 228 trillion rupiah in taxes in the first 3 months period this year. It went down 5.6% from the same period of last year. And last year, the government managed to collect 1,070 trillion rupiah in tax revenue, reaching of 89.3% of its 1,198 trillion rupiah targets, as the social restrictions to curb the spread of COVID-19 pandemic dragged down the economy. And one of the government's intentions to put tax amnesty into action is about the tax ratio. Tax amnesty is expected to expand the reach of the taxpayers who are currently still very minimal. Just look at the Indonesia's tax payment ratio, which has
transisi ke energi baru dan terbarukan tidak membuat industri energi fosil lantas surut? Seperti apa dampaknya terhadap sektor migas?
Turunnya atau rendahnya harga minyak dan gas yang sangat drastis turunnya, adanya pandemi yang membuat terbatasnya pergerakan.
Langkah yang dilakukan apa nih Pak?
Hingga hari ini saya kira brand hari ini sekitar 55. Ini sesuatu yang positif untuk industri, yang itu kira.
Kedatangan WNA asal Tiongkok ini menjadi polemik lantaran Indonesia tengah memberlakukan masa larangan mudik lebaran.
Kita minta untuk diberlakukan pengetatan.
Ya, pemerintah memutuskan untuk membuka tempat wisata di tengah larangan mudik.
Pemirsa, Menteri Kelautan dan Perikanan Wahyu Sakti Tenggono secara tegas melarang aktivitas ekspor benih lobster.
Karena benur itu adalah kekayaan daripada bangsa ini, kekayaan dari alam ini. Dia hanya boleh dibudidaya.
Presiden Joko Widodo resmi mencabut aturan terkait investasi industri minuman keras.
Bahlil Lahadalia menyebutkan
adalah kita memberikan perizinan berusaha dan inisiatif bagi UMKM.
Viewers, let's take a look at Jakarta Composite Index and the movement. So earlier today, JCI was open at the level of 5,799.18 and approaching the closing time of the first session, the index was on the level of 5,777.16 and the index was showing weakening trend by the second session closing time. The index was closed at the level of 5,763.63. In short, JCI went down 0.16%. And next we are going to see the sectoral movement. Leading the dynamics of today's trading, we got technology that went up 1.1%. We got finance that went up 0.47%. Meanwhile, property went down 0.82% and transportations and logistics went down 2.38%. Moving on to the top gainers and top losers, here are the key highlights from today's trading sessions. We got BBRI that went up 3.86%. We got MLPL that went up 19.7%. We got BABP that went up 11.61% and TBIG that went up 2.44%. Meantime, for the top losers for today's trading sessions, we got BBCA that went down 0.55%. We got ANTM that went down 2.58%. We got Telkom that went down 0.31%. And BMRI that went down 1.29%. And next, we're going to see the intraday movement of rupiah towards US dollar. So rupiah opened at the level of 14,420. Rupiah was also showing strengthening trend towards US dollar. It was closed at the level of 14,334. In summary, rupiah went up 0.6%. Indopharma confirmed that it will begin distributing 50 million doses of Novavax vaccine supply in September 2021.
Indopharma confirmed that it will begin distributing 50 million doses of Novavax vaccine supplies in September 2021. The COVID-19 vaccine included in the government's vaccine program will be imported from companies in India that have collaborated with Novavax. Indopharma has collaborated to bring in these vaccines that are binding or non-binding. President Director of Indopharma, Arif Pramuhanto, said that 50 million vaccines will be used in the free COVID-19 vaccination program by the Ministry of Health, and Indopharma will speed up distribution in 2021. Arif said that the company is also preparing to add drug lines related to the treatment of the effects of COVID-19, namely ivermectin. The drug is still being processed by the Food and Drug Supervisory Agency to obtain an emergency use authorization. Prior to ivermectin, according to Arif, Indopharma had already distributed the drugs oseltamivir and remdesivir, where these two drugs were able to provide nearly 2/3 of sales in the fourth quarter of 2020. IDX Channel Team reporter.
Harapan Duta Pertiwi is officially listed on Indonesia Stock Exchange under the stock code of HOPE. In the IPO, the company successfully raised about 100.49 billion rupiah fresh funds.
Harapan Duta Pertiwi is officially listed on Indonesia Stock Exchange under stock code HOPE. The company released 851.66 million new shares, or the equivalent of 40% of the total paid-up capital after the initial public offering of shares. Each shares is offered at a price of 118 rupiah. Thus, Harapan Duta Pertiwi has fresh funds of up to 100.49 billion rupiah.
Sebagai perusahaan yang kini telah tercatat di Bursa Efek Indonesia, kami mempunyai peluang untuk memperkuat struktur permodalan kami yang juga didukung oleh publik. Dengan dukungan tersebut, kami akan terus menjunjung tinggi visi kami menjadi raja jalanan dan membangun produk-produk yang bermanfaat yang berkontribusi pada pembangunan bangsa dan negara Indonesia.
Quoting the initial public offering prospectus, Harapan Duta Pertiwi will use most of the funds raised, or around 90%, for working capital in the form of purchasing raw materials for the manufacture of motor vehicle parts of body parts. Meanwhile, 5% of the funds raised will be used for upgrading the factory and supporting facilities. IDX Channel Team reported.
Step aside from the market conditions as coronavirus pandemic takes a big role on current economic situations. Here is an update data about coronavirus globally. Close our market headlines today. Please enjoy our next program on IDX channel, your trustworthy economic, business and capital market channel. And don't forget to always wear face mask in the public, keeping safe physical distances and washing hands to break the chain of coronavirus COVID-19 infections. I'm Clara Antawijaya. Have a nice evening and stay safe.